Your kindness isn't making you good, it's making you prey. Kind people get drained dry by emotional vampires. Empathetic people attract narcissists like moths to flame. Generous people end up betrayed by the very ones they helped most. And the quiet truth is, the world doesn't care about your moral purity. What it cares about is whether you're easy to exploit. Whether you'll say yes when you should say no. Whether you'll doubt yourself when your instincts scream danger. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He watched good princes fall to scheming courtiers. He saw generous rulers destroyed by those who smiled while sharpening knives. He witnessed kind leaders betrayed by the very people whose lives they'd saved. And he wrote it all down. Not because he was evil, but because he was paying attention. Today, I'm giving you the psychological playbook that social predators use against empathetic people. 8 patterns they exploit, and how to recognize them before you're in too deep. But first, lock this into your mind and drop it in the comments. I choose strategic kindness, not blind goodness. Now, let's expose the first trap that catches the best people. Think about the kindest person you know. Now, think about this. Are they truly respected? Or are they the person everyone calls when they need something? There's your first uncomfortable truth. Social predators don't target random people. They target specific traits. High agreeableness, low self-advocacy, a tendency to feel responsible for others' emotions. Sound familiar? Machiavelli observed this in The Prince when he wrote about how certain leaders were easily manipulated because they feared being seen as cruel. Here's what he meant. Your fear of seeming mean makes you predictable. And predictable people are controllable people. Let me show you how this works. A predator meets you at a party. Within 10 minutes, they've clocked 3 things. You apologized when they bumped into you. You laughed at their mediocre joke a bit too eagerly. And when they interrupted you, you let them finish. You thought you were being polite. They saw a target. This happens because predators are conducting constant threat assessments, but in reverse. They're not asking, is this person dangerous? They're asking, will this person enforce boundaries? Will they make me pay a social cost for bad behavior? And if the answer is no, you've just been marked as safe to exploit. Here's what you do instead. Practice strategic rudeness. When someone interrupts, finish your sentence anyway. When someone bumps you, don't apologize first. When a joke isn't funny, don't fake the laugh. These tiny acts of self-respect send a signal. I'm tracking. I notice. I'm not available for exploitation. But here's where it gets worse. Once they've selected you, the grooming begins. And it doesn't look like grooming. It looks like the best connection you've had in years. They're intensely interested in you. They remember small details. They text back immediately. They say things like, I've never felt this understood, or you're the only one who gets me. It's called love bombing, and it's not love. It's a down payment on future exploitation. Hobbes understood this when he systematized Machiavelli's observations about human nature in Leviathan. He recognized that people form bonds through reciprocity, but predators weaponize reciprocity. They overinvest emotionally at the start to create a debt you'll feel compelled to repay later. Think about it this way. A normal friendship develops gradually. Shared experiences over time, trust earned through consistency. But a predator needs speed. They need you emotionally invested before your rational brain catches up. So they artificially accelerate intimacy. They share a vulnerability designed to trigger your empathy. They create inside jokes within days. They act like you're already best friends or soulmates when you barely know them. And because you're kind, because you're empathetic, you mirror that intensity back. You think you've found your person. What you've actually found is someone conducting a psychological op. Here's the pattern to watch for. Too much, too soon. Real connection takes time. Manufactured connection feels urgent. When someone's trying to get close to you faster than the natural pace of trust building allows, they're not special. They're speeding because they need you locked in before you see who they really are. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my energy and trust slowly. Because what comes next will show you exactly why that speed matters. Before we continue, if you're still here, you're not just watching. You're learning to see patterns most people miss their entire lives. That's rare. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What's coming next will show you the psychological trap that's hardest to escape. Now, back to how they hook you. You've been taught that consistency builds trust. But here's what Machiavelli's rival, Francesco Guicciardini, observed that most people miss. Inconsistency creates obsession. This is where the love bombing stops and the psychological warfare begins. They were amazing for 3 weeks. Then they go cold for 3 days. Then they're amazing again for a week. Then cold for 2. The pattern is random, but it's not accidental. This is intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. B.F. Skinner proved that random rewards create stronger behavioral conditioning than consistent rewards. Predators know this instinctively, even if they've never heard of Skinner. When they're warm, you feel relief and attribute it to something you did right. When they're cold, you feel panic and scramble to fix it. You become hypervigilant to their moods. You start walking on eggshells. You're no longer living your life. You're managing their emotional weather system. Let me be crystal clear about something. A healthy relationship has a baseline. There's consistency in how someone treats you. Sure, people have bad days, but there's a floor they don't drop below. They don't withdraw love, attention, or basic respect as a punishment mechanism. But a predator? They need you destabilized. They need you always a little uncertain, always a little anxious, always trying to get back to those early golden days. Because an anxious person doesn't set boundaries. An anxious person is grateful for scraps. Here's what actually works. Notice the pattern, not the individual incidents, the pattern. Track it. One amazing day after 10 confusing ones isn't a good day. It's a reset button they're pushing to keep you hooked. Real relationships trend upward over time. Predatory ones cycle in loops. Wait, it's not just emotional, it gets structural. Everything you've been told about being a good person, they're using as a script against you. After everything I've done for you, I thought you were different. You're being selfish. I'm going through something really hard right now, and you're abandoning me. Montesquieu understood something critical when he designed systems of power in The Spirit of the Laws. The most effective control doesn't require force. It requires making people choose their own imprisonment. Guilt is that prison. Think about the last time you tried to set a boundary with someone who's been exploiting you. What happened? They didn't respect it. They reframed it as your moral failing. They weaponized your own values against you. You believe in being there for people? They'll call you at 3 a.m. for the 15th crisis that's somehow always your responsibility to solve. You believe in giving people second chances? They'll reframe their pattern of betrayal as your lack of forgiveness. You believe in loyalty? They'll use that to keep you trapped while they show you none. This is what I call obligation architecture. They build a structure where every exit looks like a moral violation. You can't leave without being the bad guy. You can't protect yourself without being cruel. You can't say no without being selfish. Here's what Machiavelli actually said that people misunderstand. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But he didn't mean become a tyrant. He meant this. People will exploit goodness they don't fear losing. The countermeasure? Boundaries without justification. No is a complete sentence. When they try to guilt you, don't defend, don't explain, don't justify. Just repeat, I understand you're disappointed. My decision stands. Every time you justify a boundary, you're teaching them that boundaries are negotiable. Say this with me. I choose peace over people-pleasing. And once you see the next pattern, you can't unsee it. Stop. Everything I just told you, they'll make you doubt it all. That's not what happened. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things. You always overreact. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. This is gaslighting, and it's not about lying. It's about making you question your own perception of reality until you depend on them to tell you what's real. Hobbes wrote in Leviathan that the foundation of human cooperation is shared reality. When people agree on what happened, society functions. But a predator needs you isolated from shared reality, because isolated people are controllable people. Here's how it works. They do something that hurts you. You bring it up. They don't just deny it, they act like you're the problem for bringing it up. They reframe your legitimate hurt as your character flaw. You're so negative. You can't let anything go. You're always starting drama. Over time, you stop trusting your own reactions. You second-guess your feelings. You think, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe the problem is me. And once you're there, once you've internalized that your perceptions can't be trusted, they can do anything and blame you for how you react to it. The pattern to recognize. Your reality only becomes wrong when it threatens their control. You're never too sensitive about things they want you to accept. You're only too sensitive about things you should be upset about. Here's your shield. Document. Keep a record. Not to prove anything to them, they'll never admit it, but to prove it to yourself. When they say, I never said that, you have the text. When they say, that didn't happen, you have the note you wrote the same day. This isn't paranoia. This is protecting your sanity. This is where most people's understanding breaks down completely, because there's one final trap that makes all the others work. Here's what actually keeps you trapped. And it's not weakness. It's biochemistry. Every time they hurt you and then come back with kindness, your brain releases dopamine and oxytocin, the same bonding chemicals that attach you to people you love. Except it's happening in response to relief from pain they caused. This is trauma bonding. And it's why leaving someone who hurts you can feel harder than leaving someone who just doesn't make you happy. Your nervous system has been hijacked. Weber understood this when he analyzed different forms of authority. He recognized that the most powerful control isn't rational legal authority or traditional authority. It's charismatic authority, where someone's personal magnetism overrides your rational assessment of whether they're good for you. Think about it this way. In a healthy relationship, you feel consistently safe. Ups and downs, sure, but the baseline is security. In a trauma bond, You're on a roller coaster between terror and relief. And the relief moments? They feel more intense than normal happiness because they're relief from pain. That's why you remember the good times so vividly. That's why you think, but when it's good, it's so good. That's why you keep going back. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're chemically bonded to someone who's hurting you. Here's what breaks the bond: time and distance. No contact. Not, maybe we can be friends. Not, let me check in to see how they're doing. Cold, complete, no contact. The bond weakens when it's not being refreshed with that pain relief cycle. It takes weeks, sometimes months, but it happens. And you need to know this. The version of them you're mourning, that person in those early golden days, that wasn't real. That was the bait. The person who's hurting you now, this is who they always were. You're not losing something precious. You're escaping something dangerous. Remember when I said you couldn't see it at the time? Here's what to look for next time, because there's always early signals. They test boundaries in small ways first. They show up late and see if you complain. They make a slightly inappropriate joke and watch your reaction. They overstep in tiny ways that seem too small to call out. But they're not random. They're tests. Montesquieu designed constitutional systems based on one principle: power that's unchecked will expand. Same with predators. Disrespect that's unchecked will escalate. If you don't push back on the small violations, they're measuring how much you'll tolerate before you break. Other signs? They talk badly about everyone in their past. Every ex is crazy. Every former friend betrayed them. Every job ended because of someone else's fault. You think you're different. You're not. You're just the current chapter in a repeating story. They rush intimacy. We covered that. They isolate you from friends and family by creating drama or making you feel guilty for spending time with others. They need you dependent. And here's the subtlest one. They have no empathy for your feelings, but they demand total empathy for theirs. When you're hurt, you're overreacting. When they're hurt, you're cruel for not centering their pain. The pattern that matters. Behavior gets worse over time, not better. Pay attention to the trajectory, not the promises. I'll change means nothing. Consistent changed behavior over months means something. You came here feeling like something was wrong with you, like your kindness was the problem, like you were too much or not enough. You learned that predators don't target weak people. They target people with traits they can exploit. Empathy, agreeableness, loyalty. Not because these are weaknesses, but because in the hands of someone without conscience, they become leverage points. You discovered that everything you thought was connection, the intensity, the ups and downs, the feeling of specialness, was engineered. A psychological operation designed to bypass your defenses before your rational mind could assess the threat. Now you see something that changes everything. Your kindness isn't the problem. Your lack of protection around your kindness was the problem. Kindness without boundaries isn't virtue. It's vulnerability dressed as morality. This isn't just knowledge. This is armor. You're not the same person who started listening 8 minutes ago. You can't unknow what you now know. And that means predators will have a much harder time with you going forward. If this shifted how you see people, if you felt that recognition, share this with someone who needs to see it. Hit that like button if this opened your eyes. Subscribe because understanding human nature is how you protect yourself in a world where not everyone has good intentions. Every person who learns these patterns is one less person available for exploitation. Remember, the most dangerous predator is the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Be strategic, be protected, and be kind, but only to people who've earned access to that gift.